The team manager for Sydney. This is Kane. He's started this back in 2010, and this is Nathan Donato, one of our Sydney officials from the branch. So we're just going to give you a little story about how this generated, how it all started, and how we come to this international competition. You want to take it ahead, Kane?
Yeah, thanks guys. First and foremost, just want to thank you all for the time you've given up. Without these nights, without you guys, these nights don't go ahead, okay? And hearing a couple of you guys getting interviewed out the back, you know, you've got family, you've given up family time away from your kids. One of the gentlemen had a 7-month pregnant wife. You know, like, it's huge what you're doing. It's a massive sacrifice. You might not think it at the moment, but it really is, and we really appreciate you guys welcoming us, but also for your time that you're giving. The way the whole thing started, back in 2009, my best mate's daughter was diagnosed with a brainstem tumour. It was the size of a golf ball on the back of her neck. And she, the diagnosis wasn't good. She was perfectly healthy 1 week, and then the next week facing life-threatening surgery. She went in to have that surgery, and although the diagnosis wasn't good, the outcome of the surgery wasn't fantastic either. She was confined to a wheelchair. A bit of damage was done to the brainstem. So we did not what only Australians do, but what a lot of wharfies, dock workers do. We got behind him, supported him and his family. So me and a group of mates put on a function for him and his partner and their daughter to help wherever we could financially with whatever we could in the short term. It was at that night, we realised what a lot of great work that the nurses at the Children's Hospital had done. Having been visiting her, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, and seeing the work that they were doing, it was remarkable. And in Australia, it's probably the most underpaid profession. They do an amazing job, and so we saw that. And we're at the function night. A few of the nurses were there, and they stood up and spoke. And at that night was also another mate of mine who worked on the on the other wharf in Sydney, DP World. Jules Parry, and anyone that knows Jules knows he's mad as a cut snake. Anyway, Jules was he's the most staunch, loyal, great bloke you could ever meet. And anyway, we sort of got talking about what we could do for another night, maybe to raise money just for the Children's Hospital, and obviously continue to support our friend's daughter and her family. And at that night, Jules, after a couple of beers, sort of turned around and looked at me and said, "Why don't we fight?" We were opposing captains on rival teams back in Sydney in rugby league. He played with the Eastern Suburbs Roosters. I played with South at the time, and we were both captains, so we bumped horns quite a fair bit on the field, but we're mates off it. We work in the same industry. At that night, he just looked at me with his eyes like that and said, "Why don't we fight?" And I thought, "Oh fuck, here we go again." But we just got talking, and then we decided on that night that we'd select 10 to 14 boxers or people, so not boxers, guys that hadn't even fought before. I don't know the history of you guys deeply, but I know that some of you haven't fought, some have got a bit of a history there, but these 14 guys that we put their hand up had no boxing experience whatsoever. So once again, very gutsy, balls of steel sort of move, like you've got family and friends coming to watch, so you're putting yourself on show. At that night, after that night we got together, and the next year in 2010 we had our first war on the Wharves, and at that night it was a huge success. We had a lot of celebrities there, the nurses there, and we raised quite a bit of money for the Children's Hospital, and then it started to sort of snowball from there. After the first few, it sort of had a couple of years break. I went and had 4 kids, Jules went and had 4 kids, so time got in the way a little bit. And then I got a phone call from Angelo and said, I want to keep this thing going. Can you guys help us? So we helped where we could with the time that we had. And then Angelo's just done a fantastic job to make this an international thing now. And the opportunities are endless now. Like, here we are in your beautiful country, on your beautiful island, and meeting all you beautiful people. I can't thank Angelo enough for continuing it, because here we are now. And I once again want to thank you guys for the time and effort that you've put into this, because it makes the night. Without you, the night doesn't happen, like I said. But the training and commitment you guys have shown is much appreciated. And just going back to my mate's daughter, she's 21 now, so she was 8 at the time, she's 21, confined to a wheelchair, a little warrior. She's, you know, battled issues her whole life, you know what I mean, and she was a little kid, you know. She spent 80 days in ICU and 474 days in hospital, fed through a tube. She's out now, obviously she's 21, engaged to be married next year. So,